Hey everybody, it's Brian Asbury, and I just wanted to welcome you to today's episode. If you could, like today's episode, hit that subscribe button, and let's continue to grow the developmentally speaking brand.
Today, my guest is a former OVW Triple Crown champion, the one, the only Flash Flanagan. Flash, how are you?
I'm not too bad. How you doing?
I'm good. I want to thank you for coming on today. So let's start things off by asking what made you want to get into professional wrestling?
When I first saw Bruiser Brody
Hmm.
and the Road Warriors and Roddy Piper and all that, right there, it hit me. I got the bug. Then when I went to my very first show, that's definitely what I wanted to be doing when once I get out of school. I'm gonna be a pro wrestler.
So, at what point did you decide that you were actually going to pursue this? What made you finally make the decision to chase it?
Oh, this was like third grade. And I in grade school you get the kids they're like, oh, yeah, cool, be a pro wrestler. Middle school, okay, and then
Hmm.
high school, then you get bullied and then they want to start making fun of you. But they didn't know I boxed, and so the guys that made fun of me, I had my own little Don King, and I would tell him, hey, set me up a fight with this guy and this guy and this guy, and they come over and knock them out. I was like, how's that fake? And and that's basically they didn't pick on me anymore.
Where did you start training at?
The boxing or the wrestling?
Well, okay, so the boxing led into the wrestling, correct?
Uh, no, the boxing I boxed basically with my own time.
Hmm.
I kept my buddy of mine I went to high school with kept telling me there's a wrestling ring in this building, this old building not far from it was downtown from where in my hometown. So I kept driving by over there and driving by over there and never seen any cars. Until finally one day there was a bunch of cars there and I stopped, went inside because I kept thinking, man, I'm gonna break into this building, and all I had was a padlock.
Hmm.
It was you can cut the padlock and you can steal that ring easily. But it wouldn't have been the same. It would have got trained. But when I got in there, and you start hearing all the little trying to protect the business stuff.
Hmm.
And I was just so excited. I just signed up right there because I was originally going to go out to San Bernardino to Bill Anderson School.
Hmm.
And we had a kid that later on came there, and I sent him to Bill. And became a pretty good worker, but he made a mistake, and he was at some show, and he was doing some high flying stuff and blew his knee out, and he tried to sue the building. It's like, hey,
Hmm.
you're taking these chances. You can't be suing the building like that. And so he kind of that was it for him.
So where is it that you trained at? Who was your trainer?
The guy's name was Keith Goldsby. He wrestled as Quicksilver,
Okay.
and he brought Rip Rogers in, and Rip worked with us, and he was going to take us down to WCW for being on the job, for the job guys, and make some extra money. And he goes, I'd love to take you. Said, you've got more talent than the other guys right here, right now, but right now you're too small. Because I was 175 pounds when I started. And you keep working hard, gain some weight, and I'll take you down there. Well, finally, he brought me down there, and I worked with Earthquake and Vader. And then I get back, and I got more notoriety doing that from the crowd. And then Danny Davis and them were mad at me because I didn't ask for permission. Yet it was okay for all the other guys. They were going on doing stuff like that. And it was
Hmm.
okay with that. But it's like Danny, I didn't pay Danny to train there.
Hmm.
I'm just I'm trying to make a living. And so he said he was going to send. He goes, I had a tape ready. I was going to send you and Doug Basham down to USWA as a tag team. and I just threw it in the trash. Like, well, so then they started the torturing where you got to go out and do the jobs, which big deal.
Yeah. So you were training, and then is that what led to OVW? Was Rip Rogers?
No, they were running shows that Burt Prentice and Jeff Cohen.
Hmm.
Cohen was a photographer, and Burt came up, and they were running shows at Tyndall Armory in Indianapolis. And they brought Danny up and everything. And Danny said, "Hey, you got a lot of talent. You need to get just basically get it fine tuned." He
Hmm.
goes, "You're more than welcome to come to my show on Sundays." And I was in Central City, Kentucky on Saturday nights. So basically, on my way back, I'd spend the night and I'd go to his school and then go home.
And this was
And
the old
I would,
building.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, not the good old building. This was the one side where you'd have two giant fans on each side blowing into the crowd, blowing into the ring or whatever, and then you had the wall where Dean Hill did his announcing back there behind, right by the wall.
So,
But it's good exposure.
oh yeah,
You can't get when you're starting out. You just want to work anywhere you can to get experience.
oh yeah. So you get into OVW and you start working with them, and then it's almost like everybody started to look up to you and lean on you and learn. And how did that make you feel that people confide in you and knowing that you're the one person that they feel like they can help you, that you can help them?
Well, here's man. I hate saying anything bad about people,
Hmm.
but it was good, and I was all for the boys.
Hmm.
I I remember when I was 15. I think it was 15. I met Sting, and I go, "I'm gonna be a professional wrestler when I get out of high school." And he's like, "You better think about it, kid." And I'm sitting there, and after he left, I'm like, "Think about it, kid." I said, "What are you talking about? I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna make billions of dollars, and I'm gonna be a big star." And then he didn't go into explaining all the backstabbing and the politics that go
Hmm.
on between all that. And then I kind of figured that out whenever uh, in OVW there, because I used to me you put if you get all these guys you're having good matches with, and we're all under contract, if we all get called up, we got great stories. We could all work with each other and
Hmm.
make a lot of money. But a lot of guys they get called up, they forget who you are.
Yep. How how long were you there before the developmental came to be?
Let's see. I started going to Danny's probably late '93, early
Hmm.
'94. It seems like.
So a couple years prior. So
But I
how did
started in '92.
okay? So how did it change? You've been with OVW for a while, and now Cornette brings the developmental deal. How did everything change?
Well, see, I worked for Cornette. I was working for Smoky Mountain Wrestling
Hmm.
when towards the end of their existence. Ricky Morton and Tracy Smothers used to come up and work shows for us in Indianapolis on Thursday nights, and then they kept telling me they're going to put a good word in to Cornette for me. And Cornette called me up. It was just a couple days before his Super Bowl wrestling show,
Hmm.
and the Steiners were supposed to be there against the Headbangers. And I'd worked with the Headbangers and for Burt at Ozark Mountain Wrestling and stuff like that. So they knew who I was. I guess they talked good about me. I knew Glenn Kane or Unabomb, whatever you want to call him. I knew him, so I knew a bunch of the guys that were there. All I'm wanting to do is get my foot in the door,
Hmm.
and got my foot in the door, and it was great. I mean, here you are, you got a locker room with Brad Armstrong, Buddy Landell, Tommy Rich, Terry Gordy. Bob Armstrong. I mean, the list goes on and on of all these guys that were good. And Rip always taught us show up on time, keep your mouth shut, and do as you're told. And I would listen to these guys, and they nothing but helpful.
Hmm.
It was great. It was a locker room that didn't seem like they had any. There was no egos. They were great to me. First time I worked with Buddy Landell, I had never met him. We're in separate locker rooms. We get out in the ring, and he was like, "Just listen to me, kid." And he went for the figure forward. He said, "Small package." I rolled him up, 1, 2, 3. I'm like, "Oh, great! I screwed that up." And he comes back later on. He goes, "Didn't think you're gonna put you over, did you, kid?" And I was like, "I appreciate it." And he was great. And Brad, the whole Armstrong family, I got nothing but respect for them. Like just starting out, Brad knew I was struck. I mean, when you're new someplace, they don't know who you are.
Hmm.
You're basically you're not going to sell gimmicks very well until they really get to know and you're established. Brad came back one night, had a wad of ones, and he handed it to me and goes, "Here, kid, go out and be Brad Armstrong tonight. Have fun, enjoy yourself." And I never forgot that. And I worked with his dad. I worked with every one of the Armstrongs except for Scott, the one that was the referee. I was
Hmm.
telling him the story about all this stuff. He goes, "The best one of them all." But Scott, the whole Armstrong family is great. Even and I used to joke Tracy Smothers was their adopted son, and Tracy was great too. And broke my heart whenever he passed away of cancer.
Yeah, it seemed like it took especially in this area in southern Indiana and that whole Kentucky area, they took it really, really
And
hard.
well, he helped everybody.
Hmm.
As long as you didn't come in there and was some jerk off, I mean, show some respect. And guys that didn't show any respect to him, he, Tracy would let you know.
So working in Smoky Mountain helped you get into OVW and Cornet, well, when the developmental deal.
Okay, I was basically already in OVW,
Hmm.
but I Mike Samples and Jerry Faith and Troy Hayes talked me out into leaving.
Hmm.
And because after Smoky Mountain closed up, I went to USWA. So I was still doing all the other stuff. But when USWA closed up, that's when Mike and them was wanting to run their own promotion. And they go, "We got TV and everything." And I think they screwed Danny over somehow. But when they did, they told me they had TV. So the first taping we went to, I seen the studio and I just basically shook my head. It was just one row, and you had maybe 8 people there. It was so bad. I was so disappointed and upset with myself for leaving Danny's. So I ended up going back to Danny and say, "Hey," because they'd given me a choice because I was working for Ian Rotten at the time. Also, they're like, "Hey, you got to make a choice: either work for Ian or work for us." I'm like, "Well, if I got to work for one of you, I'm choosing Ian because he's paying me 3 times what you're paying me." And Mike he was, "Oh, all right, no problem." Like I said, no hard feelings. Good luck to you guys. I'm going to go make my money. And then Mike calls me up and goes, "Well, we got these other shows we're going to be doing on Friday and Saturday." He goes, "You can make up that amount of money on those days." I'm like, "Yeah, but Mike, I'm working for, I'm doing these shows on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and I'm working every night." I
Hmm.
was like I said, no hard feelings. Good luck to you guys. But their whole TV show became about me. The Kentuckiana Championship Wrestling was basically the Flash Flanagan show, where all they did was put video packages together, beating me up, and just talking bad about me, which was great because I was a heel at Ian's,
Hmm.
and this is one thing I always remembered. Mike would never put anything over.
Hmm.
He's like, used to always say, if someone's doing something to you and talking about he's trash about you, and you put it over, they got you. Well, Mike kind of looked like Curly from the Three Stooges. Uh, so I went and bought this Curly doll, and I fixed it up and had the black trunks. I put an MS on it and the sequins jacket and everything. And we did a thing. Kenny Bowen was my manager, and we go, It's just been signed. It's official. In my corner, someone they will bring him out." And they bring out this Mike Samples, the Curly doll. Pondo still loves it to this day. But I had Mike Samples. It was as Curly, and he had the cartoon face and everything. And Mike got hot about it. He was going to sue me for slander and all this other stuff. I'm thinking, after everything you said about me, you're gonna get hot about that. And I got it was just like I got one on you there. You always talk about not putting anything over, and you're putting this over, so I got you. I was the one with the last laugh on that one. Then, but my whole thing was, I was like, all right, eventually you guys will close down and close down because he thought it was going to mark out because he was bringing Sabu and Van Dam in.
Hmm.
And I love Sabu, and I would love to work with Rob Van Dam, but I also like money also. So he was bringing them in, and still it just wasn't. He finally closed down, and that's when Jerry Faith and Troy Hayes, because they had the TV deal,
Hmm.
and they were going to come and work for Ian. And that's when I went and talked to Danny about coming back to work for OVW, because I don't think it was OVW at the time. I'm not really sure, but I asked Danny if I go, Danny, I'm sorry, I screwed up. I'm like, is there any way? I mean, would you bring me back? And he goes, boy, you sure know how to pick a good time to come see someone. Because I tell you what, if this would have been a week or two later, I wouldn't have brought you back. He goes, but I'm gonna put you on probation, and we'll see how it goes. But we'll we'll go from there. So he brought me back. Well, now you got Jerry and Troy who has screwed Danny over, and they're coming out to work at Ian's doing the hardcore stuff.
Hmm.
So the whole thing was they were going to jump us at the end of the night, leave us laying, and I was like, no, I don't see that happening in my cards. I told Ian, I go, look, I just got back at Danny's. I'm not working with these guys. And like I said, it's hardcore wrestling, and you can lay it in a little bit.
Hmm.
I mean, maybe I laid it in a little too snug, but I sent one of them to the hospital. And because I attacked both of them.
Hmm.
And everyone thinks the people sit there and they look at it, oh, they were fans. No, they were wrestlers also. And that Jerry was, they were all backstabbers.
Hmm.
Mike, Jerry, and Troy is like behind your back, they be friends to your face, and behind your back talk about you. Mike would take cheap shots on you in the ring. If he was mad at you about something, he wouldn't say anything, but when he got you in the ring, he would throw the stiffest clothesline and catch you right in the face just to be a bully.
Hmm.
And like, just that was, yeah, I got nothing really good to say about those guys.
Mm-mm. So your second run with OVW, Cornette's there. How did that? How was your run then?
It was pretty good because Cornette, like I said, I worked for Cornette Smoky Mountain. Cornette knew what I could do, and but I mean, this is where a lot of guys had, and me and Doug Basham clicked as a tag team.
Hmm.
Some people kind of forget about it. Me and Doug were a tag team way back before. Oh, really, it was just Nightmare Danny Davis School of Pro Wrestling. Me and Doug, as soon as we tagged, we knew exactly what the other one was thinking.
Hmm.
It was like boom, boom, double. Here's our double teams, wham, wham. We clicked. We didn't have to talk to each other. We just knew what the other one had on his mind. And but then years later, Doug kind of after he got called up, it went. Some people's heads get bigger and they forget where they came from. But and I like Doug.
Hmm.
And I'm not knocking Doug's ability because Doug in the ring was great. He was good. And Dinsmore was another one. Dinsmore was a good one. And but I never really get and I never get the credit that I really deserved. Like everywhere I went and every territory I went to, I got myself over.
Hmm.
And the other guys, anywhere they went, they really didn't get over that big. And I never buried anyone. I was trying to get guys to go. I
Hmm.
was, hey, you want to go here? Want to go here? I was going to doing shows in Pennsylvania, and the guy was like, he was, if you drive in, I'll pay you X amount of money, and you can keep what you want and split it up with the other guys. So I would basically split it up between the three of us.
Hmm.
I mean, I could have kept more money, but I wanted us all to make money. And it just some guys uh, just that's just a lesson to anyone want. If any young
Hmm.
guys out there in the wrestling world or any kids that are wanting to get into pro wrestling, just remember it is a cutthroat sport,
Hmm.
and you got to look after you and basically make sure you take care of you first.
Hmm.
And that sucks that it's got to be that way, but basically that's how it is. If Sting could have told me, explained that to me a little bit better,
Hmm.
because like I said, I'm not in business. I don't know anything. All I'm told was I better think about it. And I'm like, think about it? What do you mean think about it? I'm going out there and make millions of dollars. And it wasn't like that. Plus, I wasn't jacked up.
Hmm.
I wasn't no 250, 260 pound guy. I was 205 at the time. So I don't know what later on, years later, the water in Louisville must have got pretty good because guys got huge.
Now, during that time, were you already doing the dark matches with the WWE? Because I seen a couple, and then I watched you take that sunset flip
The
today from
power
Brian.
bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave Brian that move. That was my idea, and it's one of those things. Like I know I'm wasn't the biggest guy,
Hmm.
but I could take crazy bumps and get myself noticed that way.
Hmm.
And I don't know, and I wasn't ever happy with that match. Some people say, "Oh, it was all right." Like, no, I thought the match sucked because all when you have your plan, this is your move set,
Hmm.
and when I go to do my move set, they were just Brian had it all backwards, and you you can understand. You sit there and say, "Hey, well, if I make him look bad,
Hmm.
so
I seen where you were clotheslining him, and it seemed like he didn't know. Like he just messed. I could tell it was him. I don't know if
it
he was going too
it
fast
was
in
just
his
a
brain.
cluster.
Yeah.
It was just bad."
So you were doing other dark matches before that? You did a couple.
That no, that was the very first
The
time
first
I
one.
ever stepped foot in the ring. When I did that thing with Brian Christopher, that was the very first time I'd ever stepped foot in a WWF ring. I'd never stepped in a ring before then, and never worked for him.
Hmm.
And boy, those rings used to be hard. And then the next night, it was me and it might have been oh shoot, who was that with? It was like me and Taka against Brian and Pantera, I think. Not quite sure.
Mhm.
But they then not long after that, they started teaming me with Brian for a little bit, putting us over, and I wasn't under contract or anything. But then next thing I know, Scott Taylor's got the job. Okay, it's fine. But let's see, trying to think of some other things that happened there.
I know you did one with Orton, and I think that got a lot of publicity a couple years ago where Orton did an interview and he couldn't thank you enough for doing that dark match with him.
And I love Randy. Randy's
Mm-hmm.
great. I still talk to him this day. He because with Randy first, whenever Rico Costantino got in, he only had uh, he only had maybe 10 matches under his belt, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I got stuck with him. And Rico had so much talent, he just didn't know when to execute the moves.
Mm-hmm.
It was just boom, 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 boom. I go, what moves do you want to do tonight? And just listen to me, and we'll get your moves in, and we'll make this look good. And me and Rico would have good matches. And then Cornette asked me one time, he goes, "What do you think of Randy?" I go, "Randy's getting better." He goes, "Well, I was gonna stick him with you, and have you bring him along." I'm like, "All right." I think I can do something with him good. So I ended up working with Randy, and me and him had some good matches. And then uh, I think that's around the time that I was doing the thing where I was being screwed over by Cornette, and I was I deserved a WWE contract,
Mm-hmm.
and I ran that into the ground. Every week I should be there. You guys only hire stupid green guys, blah blah blah, and in all actuality, me and Dinsmore signed our contracts at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
but we kept mine hush so I could continue doing my thing. So they brought Chris Jericho in, and the the very first thing we did when we locked up, my tricep popped, rode up my arm, and I was in so much pain. And I got back in the corner. I was like, "This can't happen to me right now." And I told the referee, I like, "Go tell him to come get me," because I figured if I get the momentum going, get some my adrenaline, I'd be able to block the pain out and continue
Mm-hmm.
going. Sure enough, we went out there. We went about 20 minutes. He never knew I was hurt, and I knew if you know what you're looking for, you can go back, you can watch it, and you can sit there and be like, You can see the pain I'm in because I have no use of my left arm,
Mm-hmm.
and he never knew I was hurt, and I, you would think, hey, maybe something good could come out about that.
Mm-hmm.
And all that happened was I had my surgery. I did a house show match, and then I got fired in July.
Did they give you a reason why, or they just let you go?
John Laurinaitis is the one that called me and fired me, and I knew he didn't like me. He obviously didn't like me very well because we were doing a match, and I was working with Batista. And the whole thing with Batista is he was the demon of the deep, the guardians, the gates of hell, and all this.
Mm-hmm.
He was a monster.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hitting him with my finisher. I called it the whip flash, and Bagwell called it the blockbuster. But I still say I'm the originator. But so I went to hit him with it, and he speared me while I was in the air. Boom, 1, 2, 3, and come back to back. Laurinaitis rips me a new one. And he was like, "I can't believe don't you want them to do that stupid stuff. You're going to wind up getting hurt." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, coming from somebody who never was a big star in the business,
Mm-hmm.
like, unless you want to talk about sucking up. But then Oh boy, we got tons of stuff. Go ahead and start asking me some more questions. I get my mind going.
Laurinaitis wasn't a well liked person. So was Jim Ross in charge when you got signed, or was it Laurinaitis?
Jim
Yeah.
Ross was there, and he goes, "Hey, I can tell you've been in the gym working out. Keep up the good work. You're gonna make a lot of money in this business." And like I said, I wasn't a monster jacked up
Mhm.
guy, but it's all gonna be in the gimmick you're gonna give me anyways.
Mhm.
I mean, this is the time when they brought Batista up and they stuck him under a shirt and had him with Devon, and here he was ripped to the max.
Mhm.
And this, and I love Cornette.
Mhm.
Everything when Cornette starts talking about the wrestling world, he knows what he's talking about. And
Mhm.
but it kind of it upset me a little bit whenever because they asked, "Do you think Flash would have made a become a big star in the Attitude Era?" And he didn't. He goes, "Well, I don't think Flash ever thought he was going to be the next Steve Austin." And no, maybe not the next Steve Austin or not The Rock,
Mhm.
but I would have been the next Flash Flanagan.
Mhm.
And I, in my heart, I believe I would have got myself over because I got myself over everywhere I went, and I'm legendary in Puerto Rico for some of the crazy things that I had done, which I did some pretty stupid things that in my on my shoulder I have Cornette telling me, "Why did you do that, you idiot?"
Mhm.
But it got me over, and I had a job. I worked in the office. I put finishes together, and it was good.
Mhm. So when did you go to Puerto Rico?
I got released from WWE on July 23rd, I believe. And then I made my debut for TNA July 24th. Not July 24th, but August 24th. I had the 30-day thing, whatever.
Mhm.
And they, I get there, and Vince Russo goes, "What kind of gear do you got?" I got my black tights with the lightning bolts and this and this. He's like, "No, what would Kurt Cobain wear?" Like, I don't know. I mean, here you are booking me, and you don't even know what you got planned. I was like, so he goes, "Well, go get some jeans and dirty them up, and get a t-shirt and dirty it up." And me teaming with Wolfie, and went to the ring, and all the crowd started chanting was Nashville Brawler because they had me. It was so stupid. The whole concept was me being suicidal, where I was taking these crazy bumps,
Mhm.
like I was putting my body on the line to hurt people. But it ended up becoming I was a drug addict and I was shooting up heroin or something. It was just completely stupid.
Mhm.
And so I did that. It had me in a tag team gauntlet type match. It was a four-way, and it was a Chase Stevens. It was oh shoot, Backstreet
Mhm.
Boys, and America's Most Wanted, and I guess the Hot Shots. But it came down to the end with us and America's Most Wanted, and then I came back down the following week. We weren't booked. Came down the following week, wasn't booked, and I said, "Screw this! I'm not driving to Nashville. It's a 5 hour trip. I'm not driving down here every weekend. I'll be booked."
Mhm.
So that's whenever I called Cornette and talked to him, and he called Dutch. And the next thing I know, I'm getting a call from Bushwhacker Luke. And I'd known Savio and Miguel and Victor Quiones from the time I did the WWF stuff, whenever
Mhm.
I did that cruiserweight tournament and all that. So they brought me in, and they picked me up, and Luke was like, "Mate, you mind if we change your name? We're gonna call you Slash Venom, Venom, Venom. That's it." I go, I don't care what you call me as long as I got a check each week. I'll give you everything I got. And the first year, they really didn't do a whole lot with me. It was basically I was doing the I wasn't the opening matches, but I was in the middle of the
Mhm.
card. I was part of Savio's group. We were his flunkies and all that. But Dutch had left, and that's when Victor Quinones asked me if I wanted to work in the office because he knew I'd been around a while and put finishes together. I'm like, all right. And they paid me more money, so of course I'll do this. This is great. But boy, I don't know if you ever heard the story on Puerto Rican time. When they say Puerto Rican time, if you show up at when you're supposed to be there at 12, Puerto Rican time could be 2:30, and you're sitting around. And that was aggravating, but
Mhm.
if I look back at it now, I was like, what else would I have been doing?
Mhm.
I should have like just enjoyed it more than what I did. I mean, shoot, a couple hours to hang out with the boys, and no big deal. I wasn't gonna be doing anything anyways.
How long were you down in Puerto Rico?
I got there October 10th, I believe, 2005. Not 2005, 2002, and I left full time, and I came home for good in 2008. And I got sent home one time a little bit early. They sent me home because I got hooked on somas,
Mhm.
and it was just one of those things where when you're hurt, you don't want to lose your spot.
Mhm.
And so I was taking, there would be a EMT there. He would shoot me up with an anti-inflammatory in my back, and I would take a couple somas and a Vicodin, and I'd go to the ring and wrestle. And I was able to get through pretty good, and you couldn't tell I was hurt. Then, but the somas really took over because when you're getting up, popping 15, 20 of them, and then go to sleep, wake up, and you're like, oh, I'll take some more, and you pop another 15, 20 of them. I was like, lucky I'm not dead. And the it got bad so bad one night that Savio and Miguel came to the office, and we were in the office at like 3 in the morning. We were on the computer, and I closed the. I fell down, and I was on laying on the floor, half out of it, and the I go, hey Mike, he was one of the other wrestlers. I'm like, can you come here and help me out? I can't get up. And that's when Savio and Miguel seen me, and they ended up sending me home basically because they didn't want me to end up winding up dead down there. Which to this day I thank them,
Mhm.
and I love those guys. It's like they seen I had a problem that was really bad, and they took care of it for me, and they brought me back when I got myself cleaned up, and that was a good thing.
Oh yeah. Just shows you that people. Some people do care in this business, and then there's a
Yeah,
lot that don't.
because I could have sat there and I could have OD'd no problem,
Mhm.
and but and I my work you wouldn't have known that I was summing up or anything. And I remember one time I was looking in the mirror and I see my eyes and they were all red, and I was like, man, you're pretty messed up. He's like, you you got to quit this. You're gonna wind up dead. And I was like, I'll take whatever I had left. I took those, and I'm like, I'll quit taking. I won't go buy anymore after this. But they ended up going and buying more. Just like I said, so them sending me home
Mhm.
was a blessing in disguise, and I got myself cleaned up, and I'm still around to talk about it.
Good.
Because
What?
I don't know if you've ever seen the video of me getting thrown off the balcony. It, have you ever seen this video?
I have not.
Oh boy, you guys do some homework on here, buddy.
No, I was talking to Jeter the other day, and you had posted something on your Facebook, and you were on top of a cage, I
Oh,
think.
No, it was they did with those X Division matches,
Mhm.
and the pole in the corner, they were really high,
Mhm.
and I climbed up to the top of it, and I'm like, oh my god, I gotta jump off here now. But then I thought, looking back, if I could go back and do it again, because I was a heel,
Mhm.
but I would have gotten so much heat if I would have climbed up there, looked around, and climbed back down.
Mhm.
But I wanted to make sure people got their money's worth and got to see something crazy every night, and that was just my style. I wanted to make sure whoever bought a ticket, they
Mhm.
left that show and they remembered Slash Venom. That's what I was down there, so I wanted to make them remember me.
Mhm. So what was after Puerto Rico? What was the next move then?
After Puerto Rico, I came back home, and I would still go back down there every now and then.
Mhm.
But then I was working in Ripley, Tennessee. Derek King was running shows there, and I was coming and working for him, and we were packing this place. And that's when I started. I was doing the Flashmania stuff, and this is where another thing with me and Johnny Ace didn't gel very well. I had to try out 2010, so we're sitting there, and I'm doing the Hulk Hogan thing, and the whole Flash Flanagan bit is based off of Hulk Hogan.
Mhm.
Throughout the years, and I don't know why Vince has never capitalized on this, but the whole thing was Hogan would cut a promo. One day, Hulkamania isn't going to be able to compete in the ring anymore, but there's Hulkamania will last forever. But there's going to be one of those little Hulkamaniacs I'm going to have to face to find out if he's the one. So Hulk Hogan, you got the Hulk comic book character. Hogan, you got the Irish name,
Mhm.
and I'd come up with Flash and comic book name, and then I kept trying to think of a last name, and then we watched Cocktail with Tom Cruise, and his last name he was Nick Flanagan, I think. I'm like Flash Flanagan, there it is, and I had no idea. Now they got Flash Flanagan Memorial Wrestling tournaments and all this, so it was like I don't know who came up with it first,
Mhm.
but as far as I know, I'm the first one to come up with it because I never had a computer back then,
Mhm.
and I was coming up with this stuff, but it is what it is.
And
Uh,
then, so how did your tryout in 2010 go?
well, I worked with that Josephus Brody who just passed away,
Mhm.
and the match was over with. He went to throw me out of the ring one way, and as soon as he grabbed me, he just manhandled me and threw me out the other way, tore my meniscus. And I was already working on one meniscus that was torn. So now I've got both meniscus torn. I got a tryout coming up here in a few days. So I started doing the Hulk Hogan thing. And I was like, I swam, I did the backstroke across the the Atlantic Ocean or whatever. And I swam with the crocodiles. Swam with the sharks. I'm here now. Blah blah blah. And like the Undertaker streak is whatever it was. I go this year at WrestleMania. I'm challenging you, and I go, the streak's coming to an end. It's going to be blah blah blah. And what you're going to do when Flashmania runs wild on you. Well, the next night in catering, Johnny Ace goes off on me in front of a bunch of the boys. He goes, I'll give you this tryout and you do this Hulk Hogan bullcrap. I'm like, you know, obviously you don't even get it. And the whole thing was, yeah, I wanted to work with Hogan because you work with Hogan, you're going to make some money.
Mhm.
And so, and if I was up there and I was on the drinking the water they were drinking, I would have been a lot bigger. I
Mhm.
mean, think Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit and stuff for all that being done because all the stuff they had in their system, there were a ton of other guys that had a lot of stuff in their system. I remember we got drug tested one time, and I'm probably the only guy that passed the drug test. And it just aggravated. And
Mhm.
then next thing I know, I see Curtis Axel out there doing Axelmania, but they made a joke out of it. And it's like, no, the whole thing is supposed to be a joke. The
Mhm.
whole thing is I'm taking Hogan's spot. He never passed the torch to anybody.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, I can team with Hogan and all this and set it up. Hey, I got to know myself. Is it the Hulkamaniacs or the Flashamaniacs? And they just never got it. And then you sit there and you start like all these ideas that I had done. I've seen so much stuff done.
Mhm.
I mean, one time I was a waiter in Louisville for a John Cena Nexus program,
Mhm.
and we're at the motel. But Lawler and I can't remember if it was JR or not doing commentary, but you hear the crowd, splash, and like, and then they did the thing up here in Indianapolis, and Shane McMahon got injured by Kevin Owens. This was right before WrestleMania. I did the Backlash pay per view. I was an EMT.
Mhm.
And then I was an EMT on the thing here in Indianapolis, but time was running short. So they were checking on it. We had to check on him in the back. And I get a pop when they see me on the screen. It just, all I ever wanted was a chance.
Mhm.
It's like, if you guys would have gave me a chance, because there are so many guys, when I was younger and healthier, I would have tore the house down. I would have loved to have worked with guys like John Morrison and Dolph Ziggler and stuff like that.
Mhm.
We would have tore the house down.
I agree.
And Shawn Michaels one time buried me. I had a dark match and I wrestled one man gang. And Shawn walks in and he goes, "Don't give him anything. Just go out there and crush him. You didn't give me nothing when I started. Just go out there and job him out." I'm like, "Really? Yeah, you really found God."
So you're still going strong today, though. People still talk about you. You know, I did interview, like I said, I just did one with Johnny Jeter not too long, and he was talking about you. Randy Orton talks about you. There's still plenty of people who would agree. You know, had you had a chance, there's a lot of people in your corner.
Well, and I love Jeter. And Jeter and shoot, what did he work as? He in OVW was Chris Cage, and they brought him up. He was one
Hmm.
of the Dude Busters, which I thought was one of the dumbest names they could have gave somebody.
Hmm.
Chris
It was.
Pavone, I think his last
Yep.
name is,
Hmm.
and they showed up. They were showing up late for practice or something, and Dinsmore was teaching the classes, and he told me to, hey, go out there and be a little snug with them. I'm like, man, I don't want to go out there and beat the guys up, but we were chopping them. And it was like, and for me, when I sit there, when I sit there and we were chopping them. When I got started, I got Rip in the corner. Rip got me in the corner, gave me three, told me to spin him around, give him three. First one I gave him was horrible. He spun me right back around, bam, bam, bam. I spun him around, horrible. Spun me back around, bam, bam, bam. Spun him around, horrible. Spun me back around, bam, bam, bam. I spun him around. Now my chest is black and blue. I'm bleeding, blistered, and he stopped. And then the next day came. He goes, "I really didn't think you was going to come back. I thought that was it for you." I go, "No, it's what I want to do." And the first night I worked with Rip in a singles match, worked him in my hometown, and he got me in the corner. I can't remember if he gave me two or three chops, but he told me to spin him around and give him the three. The first one I gave him, I opened him up. So it was like it was me and Trash. We used to just brutalize each other. It was like he had the nipple chops, which hurt because they come across your nipple. and but we did it was if you got in the ring with us, Trash was going to chop you. I was going to come in and top his. He was going to come in and top that, and we were about determined who was going to have the best chop. And if you ever talk to Rip, I mean, Rip taught me, so he knows how hard I chop.
Is there what's next for Flash Flanagan?
Oh shoot!
You've been all over the place. You've wrestled in a WWE ring, a Smoky Mountain ring, OVW, a WCW ring, Puerto Rico. You've been everywhere.
Honest to God, uh, retirement. I hate saying it, but my body's broke down. I've I should have listened back in the day, and I basically well, I'm half crippled now, and it sucks. The only thing I feel bad because I don't feel like I got any credit for the stuff I did.
Hmm.
Like Mark Henry, here's perfect, and I love Mark Henry, and he had we had a dark match up here in Indianapolis. Tony Gurria comes up to me. He goes, "Look, because this is when they sent him down to Louisville." He goes, "We want to see how well he's moving around the ring and how he's doing if he's gotten any better and his conditioning. So go out there and make him work hard, and we want to see how he does." Like, all right. So we went out there. We had a great match, and next thing I know, Mark Henry's getting called back up. I was like, "Mark, hey, remember, hey, can you help me out here?" No, they said if you're a threat to somebody,
Hmm.
if they feel like you're a threat, you're not getting, you're going to get screwed over because they're not going to have someone there that can take their spot.
Hmm.
And
I hate that.
yeah, I mean, and here's the thing: when they talk about wrestling being just there's so much wrestling on TV nowadays, that is the biggest crock. I used to watch wrestling. You had Tuesday, you had primetime wrestling. You would have the Power Hour on Fridays. You would have Saturday morning wrestling superstars. Then you could turn, or then you, or Saturday morning you had uh, uh, Georgia Championship Wrestling or World Championship Wrestling, whatever it was that morning at 8 o'clock or whatever. But then you have another WCW show, or they had the UWF on. Then you had that's when you had wrestling superstars.
Hmm.
Then the next day you would have wrestling superstar, wrestling challenge, and all star wrestling. And then you had during the week, you had the Tuesday night Titan show where they would like did the Johnny Carson talk show. But you had wrestling all the time. So when they sit there, oh, it's oversaturated with all this wrestling. No, the fact is, you got these guys in the ring slapping their leg and doing all this other crap. It's like, geez, it's so bogus. It's like, all right, when kids are out there in the crowd doing these moves and slapping their legs, it's pathetic
Hmm.
because it's like they see right through you. And the one thing I'm proud of is people have believed in everything I've done, and sometimes uh, they've been scared because uh, sometimes I thought I was going to get shot or attacked, and I never took it as a joke.
Hmm.
I took pro wrestling seriously when I was in the ring, and guys don't know how to dive out of the ring anymore. If they
Hmm.
do a dive, everyone gathers around and they all stand there and wait for the guy to catch them.
Hmm.
No, that's not how you do it. And it just pathetic.
If you could give advice to anybody wanting to get into professional wrestling, what would it be? Be as honest as you want.
I would probably tell them the exact thing Sting said to me. Better think about it, kid. And then if they asked me something after that, I would sit down and I would explain to them the pros and cons of it.
Hmm.
Because it doesn't matter how good you are at times. You just got to be at the right place at the right time, and hopefully it clicks. I gave what WrestleMania was it when Braun Strowman and Mark Carrano's kid teamed up and won the tag titles? Do you remember what WrestleMania that was?
Probably 3, 4 years ago. 35, 36, probably.
Yeah, because I know I did. That was when I was doing the EMT thing, and I go, you've done a thing where you said no one wants to be Braun Strowman's partner. I go, here I am, the EMT, and all this, where guys are getting beat up. I go, have him grab, he's boom, you're going to be my partner. I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. No, you're going to be my partner. So I stand in the corner and I'm just watching him do the work. And then he could tag me in and they could beat on me, whatever. There's a tag. And then come in and he comes in, cleans house. I've got the doctor stuff. I go in and check on them and make sure they're okay. But and I told him that, and he was like, Mark Carrano was like, I don't think that would work. And then you use your kid to do it.
Hmm.
And at least I was an adult. And it was
Yeah.
like, and you tell him that, like you said, then the Flash Mania thing, they gave it to Curry Henning's son. It was a good worker, anyways.
Hmm.
Why didn't they just call him nearly perfect? Because at one time when I used to have the bleach blonde hair, it was long, it resembled Kurt Hennig in a way. I could have been nearly perfect, teaming with him,
Hmm.
and we go to the I'll do all the little vignettes. Kurt Hennig's hitting home runs. I get to the bat, I hit the ball, the guy catches it at the warning track. We go bowling, strike, strike, strike. I get down to my last one. I gutter it or something. I don't get the strike. Like I was so close to being
Hmm.
perfect on everything, but then the bell rang. I had all my stuff together. I was like, oh wow, in the ring he's different, but on all the other stuff he's almost perfect, but he's not quite perfect. And then you could go off of that, and then ended up having the feud with Kurt, and then give you the push, and there you go, you're off and running. But him and Brock got in that fight on the plane,
Hmm.
and Kurt was gone. And I could
Flat.
go on and on about things. I was so mad. I watched the Edge and Finn Balor match,
Hmm.
the Hell in a Cell. Love Edge, but I was sitting there. I've been going around with the red kendo stick for so long, and the whole kendo stick is it's Star Wars.
Hmm.
They gave it to me in Puerto Rico. And I was like, man, I don't want to carry a kendo stick. So I started painting them just to be a little different,
Hmm.
and that way I didn't hear Sandman wannabe or anything like that. So I got my kendo sticks red, or I'd have the fluorescent green, or I'd have blue one or something. And I, then if I was wrestling a foreigner, I would do the red, white, and blue, and then I put the stars on it
Hmm.
and go from there. And the kendo sticks over. They, I break them and I sell them at the show,
Hmm.
sign it, and I hopefully have a picture of someone that has where I've hit them in the head with it, and there they go. But
Flash, I want to say thank you. We'll have to do this again. But what you did for professional wrestling matters. I want to say what you've done and what you continue to do. Thank you, because
well, I appreciate it.
people do remember you. People talk about you constantly. You are one of the good ones, and I want to thank you for coming on today. Is there
I'm
any?
sorry it took so long.
No, 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 no. People are busy. It's perfectly fine.
Well, I've been dealing. I've been dealing with depression really bad lately.
Hmm.
Like and I had my dog. I had him for 18 years, and I never had kids.
Hmm.
My whole thing was everything was wrestling. I didn't let anything step in my way. If there was a wrestling show, I made sure I went to the wrestling show. And it makes me so mad, guys. Now, oh, I can't be there. Me and my girlfriend are going to go to the movies or
Hmm.
whatever. I'm like, did you get in this for just fun or what? I got into it because I wanted to be a professional wrestler. You know how many
Hmm.
times I missed out on things that I wanted to do?
Hmm.
And I was like, no. And it's like you're in this business. Don't screw it up. And they didn't want to do that. And it's like, oh well.
Hmm.
You must obviously don't want it too bad.
I couldn't agree more. Have you considered maybe doing some coaching, some training, just to
I would
keep
have to pay.
busy?
My knees are shot,
Hmm.
and I could do the coaching, but man, I don't think guys are going to listen anymore. It's they see all the crap they see now,
Hmm.
and and it does me good because I sit there and I think I hope Randy's back's okay. I don't know if he's returned yet or not,
Hmm.
but I love seeing his success because I feel like I'm a part of it,
Hmm.
and but I always knew Randy was going to be good anyways. Third generation, he if he didn't make it, he would have been it would have been his own fault. But Randy is good.
Is there anything else you'd like to plug before we go? Are you still taking bookings? Are you slowly?
I'm still taking bookings. Uh, you can message me on Facebook,
But you're not
and
flying off of stuff anymore.
huh.
You're not flying off of stuff anymore.
Sad thing is, it all depends what kind of mood I'm in.
Hmm.
I'll still give you your money's worth. Like it was saying, I used to have the man who loves to steal the show. That's uh, if you catch me in the right mood, and I hear other guys talk about how great this guy or this guy is, I may have to go out there and say, hey, here I am. I'm almost 50, and I can still go out there and tear the house down.
Hmm.
But
Flash, you have accomplished so much. Whether people have seen would agree or not agree, you've traveled all over the place. You've wrestled for every major place there is. You've made an impact, and people respect you so much. I just want to thank you for coming on today. And anytime you'd like to come back, we'll talk wrestling. I'd love to have you.
hey, do you want to hear the New Jack story?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I don't know if Pondo's already told everyone, but the whole New Jack story was they brought New Jack into Puerto Rico,
Hmm.
and him they brought him and Pondo, and the last time they brought Jack in, he had a problem. Him and Mike Hughes had gotten into a little altercation. Just Jack was the one to use a staple gun and all this, and Hughes was like, "No, I'm not doing that." So I told Pondo, I go, "You just stay with Jack, and I'll stay with Hughes. That way, kind of keep everything under control." Well, I forgot Pondo is excuse me, double jointed in his leg and can turn his leg around backwards. So I go, listen, when Jack comes off the top of the truck and goes to the table, Pondo, you sell your leg like you broke it. And one, two, three, I'll go straight to the back and I'll just start throwing a fit. So get to the back, and I'm telling, well, Jack wanted to do that stupid move and jump off top of that truck when it's been raining Should have known it was gonna be slick. And he came down and broke Pondo's leg. And Luke was like, mate, wait, what's going on here? What's going on here? Jack comes in. Jack starts cussing me. Telling me, you stuck the table in the wrong place. I'm like, you're the idiot that stuck the table in the wrong place. I goes, I was up doing something else. You stuck the table there. It's all on you. It's your fault that his legs broke. And he's calling me some more names. And I like, oh yeah, what are you gonna do? Stab me here in front of everybody? I go, I dare you. And Jack pulls out a knife and started walking towards me. Then all of a sudden, you look around, all the Puerto Ricans are reaching their hands in their bag for their guns and their knives. And two of my close boys, my buddies, and we were really tight. And one had his hand on his gun. The other one was right there getting ready to hook Jack's arm where he had the knife, and the other one's going to shoot him in the head. And I see all. I'm like, whoa! Wait a minute! It's a joke! It's a joke! It's all rib! It's a rib! Don't do anything! And Jack's laughing, and we're leaving. I'm like, Jack, you realize two more steps, you were dead. They were going to kill you. You weren't going to get to me at all. I like that's how I knew. I love Puerto Ricans.
Hmm.
The Puerto Ricans, they were great to me. There's a lot of there's lots of talent down there too that
Hmm.
no one's heard about that they should, and some really good ones. And I said I love going down there and seeing the boys, and it was great. I had a good time.
Well, that's amazing. I appreciate you coming on. I hope to see you sometime. I think I saw you last year at Squared Circle. You came and said hi to Rip. I had Rip at my table. So hopefully we bump into each other sometime soon again.
Oh, was that the Wyndham?
Yep.
Yeah, for some reason Ed won't book me.
Well.
I, I live 10 minutes from the building.
Hmm.
Imagine that. I can't get booked for a wrestling convention 10 minutes from my own house. He's
Is
like,
there? Go ahead.
who did I make mad?
Is there any other appearances you got coming up?
I'm gonna do the show May 13th. I can't wrestle in St. Louis because I don't have a Missouri license, but I want to show up there, and I think I'm gonna do the meet and greet, and then stick around for the show for just I don't know. It all depends right now. Then June 3rd, we're going to do a thing where we're raising money for a police officer. He got shot in line of duty and killed uh, about a month or two ago. And I'm wrestling Andy Anderson with in a cage with Kevin Sullivan outside or ringside. So
Yeah, just send me anything you got, and I'll promote it any way that I can.
SICW, Southern Illinois Championship Wrestling, is where if you want to see me, it's where I'm usually at.